if you're ready for the message, if you're ready to dig into the Word of God, we are going to be turning to the book of Matthew, chapter 8, starting at verse 5. Matthew, chapter 8, starting in verse 5. Now, Matthew is in the New Testament. It's actually the first book of the New Testament. And so if you got to turn to the table of contents, or you got your Bible app, or whatever it is that you've got, first book of the New Testament is Matthew, and then you're looking for the big number 8, chapter 8, and we're going to verse 5. We'll get there in a couple minutes. But before we get there, I just want to tell you a story about actually Heidi and I, my wife and I, about 2 months ago. Heidi was pregnant with Ben, our littlest guy, and she had been waiting and waiting and waiting to have this kid, and she was getting tired of being pregnant. She was just ready to have the kid and be able to hold him. And so she had actually talked to one doctor, and the doctor said, on such and such a date, if you don't go into labor on your own, we will induce you, and you have the baby that way. And so it got to that date, and she called in, and the doctor said, no, we're going to push it back another week. And she was devastated. She had all of her hopes on finally having some relief from all the pain that comes from being 9 months pregnant, and all the anxious anticipation of being able to meet and hold her little baby. And it was crushed. And she was wondering, can I endure this? How do I last another week? I'm so tired, and I'm so sore, and I'm so overwhelmed. And she felt totally trapped in that moment. And she felt like there was no way out and didn't know what to do next. I understand that many of you, many of us in this world today feel trapped. Now, even before all this virus stuff hit, there were circumstances and there were times that we felt very, very trapped, very overwhelmed, didn't see how we were going to be able to endure, didn't know how we were going to get to that finish line. For some of us, we felt trapped as it came down to sin and addiction in our lives. That we saw the horrible things, the bad things, the frustrating things that we consistently do, the bad habits that we continued to live out and we continued to repeat over and over again. Those addictions that it seemed like they controlled us, and every time we tried to put them off, they came back with a vengeance. One of those bad habits that we couldn't give up. No matter how hard we tried, we would just naturally fall back into it. Or the sinful things that we've done, and they haunt us. And they left us in this place where they defined who we were, or they defined what we were going to do next, or they defined the possibilities for the rest of our lives, and we felt trapped by them. For some of us, it has been finances and work. And for some of you right now, that is heavy. You are looking at your finances, and you're looking at your job, or your lack of job, or how long your job is going to last, and you feel trapped because you don't know if you're ever going to be able to work your way up to a better job. You don't know how you're going to last until the next job. You don't know how you're going to be able to pay your bills. Some of you, it is this overwhelming pressure of the work and the finances that you have, and you feel just totally overwhelmed, not because you don't have any, but because you have so much that you are constantly anxious and stressed about it, stressed about losing it. They're stressed about the workload that you have. And you look at the situation of your life, and you feel overwhelmed, and you feel trapped, and you feel like there's no way out. There's no hope. And for some of us, it has been our health or our family. When we look at our health condition, we look at maybe the frailty of human life. And we see it, and we don't know how things are going to change. We feel overwhelmed by the reality of death for us and for those around us. You look at your family, and you see the stress and the chaos that is there, and how it maybe Maybe your family is pulling away from each other. Maybe you've lost a loved one. Maybe they're just emotionally pulling away, or because you were trapped in a house with them all the time, it feels like you're at each other so much that you don't know how you're going to last without killing each other. And it just feels totally overwhelming, totally trapped. And you don't see any way that it's going to be fixed, and you don't see any way out. Well, when I go shopping, and I don't go shopping a whole lot, or when I'm on the phone with the phone or internet company, what I've done in the past when I've felt totally trapped by the situation is I've ended up asking a very simple and very important question. I think you know what it is. You've been on those calls. You've been in those moments where you've been on the call with your internet provider and they have locked you into a contract, or they have locked you into this price, or they have increased the price, and you're talking to them about it and you're complaining about it, and that simple question comes to mind. Well, if you can't do anything about it, I need to talk to somebody that can do something about it. Can I speak to your manager? Can I speak to your manager? See, the incredible thing is that when you ask that question, they put you on the phone, they put you in contact with somebody that, even though everything was overwhelming and it seemed like there was absolutely nothing they could do, and the person that you were talking to said there was nothing you could do, all of a sudden it seems like the rules have changed, and because you're talking to the boss, there are new possibilities. Let's turn to Matthew chapter 8. In Matthew chapter 8, Jesus has started his ministry. And at verse 5, this is what Matthew chapter 8 says. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion, a Roman soldier, came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come to heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And the servant was healed at that moment. The centurion understood that because he was talking to the man in charge, things could be done that couldn't normally be done. He understood that because Jesus was and is the rightful king of the world, the things that are normally impossible were possible for him. He knew that Jesus can get it done because he's the boss. Now, in my life, I have tried to handle things, and I've tried to fix things on my own, and often ended up either in a mess or just ended up at this place where I can't go any further and I can't fix it, and I end up feeling trapped. Well, I can do a certain amount of carpentry, I can do a certain amount of mechanical, but the reality is that when I need it to be done, and done right and done in a way that I cannot handle. I have to go to somebody that is the boss at it. I take my car to a mechanic. I call a plumber. I call my buddy who's a carpenter, and they talk me through what needs to be done. Or they come over and they do what needs to be done. And because they are the boss, they have authority in that area. They can do things that I couldn't even imagine doing. I couldn't even imagine it being done. They think about things and they know things and they have capabilities that I don't even think about. And they have thought about it and they have perfected it and they can do it. Now, back to the story about Heidi and I and getting down to when we were expecting Ben. We were feeling trapped, and Heidi especially. And she felt like there is nothing we can do here. But we had a fantastic experience with our family doctor. And we have a fantastic relationship with her, and we trust her a lot. And I looked at Heidi and I said, it's going to be okay. We have a doctor's appointment with our family doctor this afternoon. We'll talk to her. And I'm pretty sure that she's going to take care of this. And we went to the appointment, and we met with her family doctor, and we told her about what was going on. She checked Heidi over. She said, give me a minute. She left the office, made a few phone calls, and when she came back, she said, okay, so you're ready to go in tonight. The nurses will be ready for you tonight. Just go in, wait for the shift change, pack your bags, go home, get some supper, grab your bags, head there about 7, and they'll be ready for you. Tell you, there was no way that we could have made that happen. There was no way that I had the authority or Heidi had the authority to make that happen. But because we talked to our family doctor who had the authority, things got done. Because we talked to the boss, things got done. And this is what the centurion knew and what the centurion was saying about Jesus. That Jesus can get things done because he is the boss. Because he asked that simple question. Can I speak to the manager, please? Now, what that means for us in our lives is this sin and this addiction that we face. Whether it's something in the past that haunts us and messes with our future, or it's something that we continue to repeat, and we have tried to beat it and we can't. We can't because we're not the boss. We haven't been going to the boss. We haven't been going to the manager. We've been going to other people that don't have authority in those areas and don't have the ability and the expertise and the perfection to be able to deal with those. If you want to see things change, you got to say the question. You got to ask the question, can I speak to the manager, please? You got to say, can I speak to Jesus, because he is the only one that can do anything. He is the only one that has authority to change anything here. Jesus is the one that can get it done because he is the boss. And we need to go to him. We need to confess the things that we've done in the past and the things that we're doing now, and we need to hand them over to him, and he is able to forgive. He is able to change. He is able to transform us, to make it so we don't repeat those same behaviors. He is able to change things in such a way that our past does not define our future anymore. That there can be forgiveness, there can be open doors, there can be fresh starts, and there can be eternal life. But you got to go to the boss. You got to go to the boss. If you're struggling financially or with work, whether that's too much work or you're stressed about and anxious about losing your money, or you're in the place where you don't know where your next meal is going to come from or how you're going to pay the bills long term, and you've tried to deal with it over and over again, that's because you've been just talking to an employee. You need to ask the question, can I speak to the manager? You need to understand that Jesus can get things done because he is the boss. And you got to go to Him. And He is able to provide for you financially. And He is able to fill your heart with something meaningful and valuable that isn't based on your money. He is able to give you peace in the middle of having too much responsibility or too many questions. He is able to give you peace, and He's able to give you hope, and He's able to provide for you better than any job or any amount of money that you could ever dream of. And I'm not saying that you got to be lazy. I'm saying that if you go to Him, He will guide you and He will provide. Jesus can get it done because He's the boss. And as we are faced with the fears and the pain of health complications, death, troubled relationships in our families, I gotta let you know, Jesus can get it done because He's the boss. You gotta start asking the question, can I speak to the manager? Can I speak to the boss? Can I speak to Jesus? Because He is the one that has authority. He is the one that has authority to work behind the scenes in your kids' lives. He's the one that's able to work in and between people to save marriages. He's the one that is able to bring healing to bodies to stop this virus. He is the one that is able to give you life that goes beyond death. So you don't actually have to fear death. I'm not saying death is a good thing. It's an unnatural thing. It's a painful thing. But it doesn't have to conquer you. Jesus beat death. And He's made a way for you to beat it too. But if you want that for your life, you got to talk to the boss. Jesus can get it done because He's the boss. I've seen it in my life. I'm sure many of you have seen it in your lives. And like this centurion who had such incredible faith in Jesus because he understood that he was talking to the boss. He was talking to the manager. And he had the authority to do things that were otherwise impossible. I believe in the God of miracles. And that God of miracles is named Jesus. And He can do those miracles. He can get it done because He has the authority. Because He's the boss. He's in charge. He cares about you and He's fighting for you. Now, if you're wrestling with this here this morning or whenever it is that you're watching this, and you're in the place where you have never decided to follow Jesus, or you followed Him in the past and you've gotten away from it, I encourage you right now to make the decision to ask the question, can I speak to a manager, please? To go directly to the boss and say, can I speak? I need to speak to Jesus, please. He is the only one that can handle this, and He is the only one that can change this. He is the only one that can save. And I want to dedicate my life to following Him from this point forward because He is the only one that can get it done. If you're in that place, I encourage you to take that step and to get a hold of me or one of your friends who is a follower of Jesus and tell them what you've done, and we will help you along this journey. Because this isn't just a one-time decision. This is a decision with a life after. Now, if you're watching this and you are a follower of Jesus, I want to remind you that as we are in the middle of all this chaos, that we serve the God who is in charge, the God who has authority, and that when everything else seems impossible unchangeable, overwhelming. I want to remind you that Jesus can get it done because He is the boss and He's fighting for you. And you will get through this.